Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. I finally did the math. We are in the start. We're starting the spring 2022 season. We began the GLORIO blog in summer 2012, so this is actually season 40 of the GLORIO blog.
Goodness me.
That we are heading into, which will, of course, by the end of this season, will be our 10th anniversary. So that's pretty wild.
Big 40. You don't look a hair over 39.
But as an additional fun fact, I realized the first anime we ever covered was Kingdom, and Kingdom season 4 is happening this season.
Wait, that's the same Kingdom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like a long-running major seinen manga.
Right. Yes,
right?
Stop me if you've heard it before. Yes, like iconic 90s era seinen series that's been running for decades.
Though my understanding is they have sort of pulled that thing's production up, and it's not an all CG show anymore.
Yes, my understanding is talking to. We can't even do this. None of us even watch this anime. But my understanding, talking to the Kingdom fans I know, is, as you'll often might guess, you're better off reading the manga, but the later seasons are acceptable.
Worth noting, as we do, we did cover the first episode of the first season back in 2012, and we have not covered it since. So maybe that tells you something.
Got out of jail early on that one, huh?
Yeah. But that said, we do have another season of new shows to cover.
Yeah,
which,
can't be
that's
looking ahead at season 40 when we've still got the masterpieces of season 39 to deal with.
Oh, are we still dealing with holdovers from last season?
No, you see, this is season 40.
This season 40?
And
okay,
next season will be season 41.
Ah, gotcha.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Because we started.
Yeah, so this is the 40th season. So by the end of this, that makes the 10th anniversary. Yeah.
Okay. Forgive me.
It's like how the year 2000 is actually how that
because there was
works.
no 80, there was 81.
Right.
We can't get into that debate again.
Yeah, that was 22 years ago.
So what's on the slate for the new season?
Yeah, so spring 2022. We're going to talk about that, but before we do, let's just introduce everybody. I'm Jel. I am joined by Iro.
I'm still here. I'm not dead yet. 40 seasons
still
later.
With us, as always. And we're joined by G.
What's good, everybody?
And we have Zig with us for this episode.
Yes. Unable to count to 40, apparently, but otherwise still fully functional.
Yes, so, quite a few things to talk about here for the new season.
Yep, yeah, no, it's the first look.
I think
episode,
the anime gods have listened to my prayers and given me many dumb comedies to watch.
And in classic tradition, you probably won't hear about half these shows by the next podcast.
Well,
maybe
I'll be watching some of them, but
I'd say
probably, right?
At the very least, this season is a considerable step up over the last one, right? We can all agree that.
Give it time.
So far.
We can't relitigate this. I guess let's just say feelings are still fresh after finishing Ranking of Kings. And
yeah.
Ranking of Kings was still good.
Yeah.
I would say.
This cannot be, as you said, this cannot be litigated on the First Look podcast.
I feel like
these are questions that we will answer at the end of the year.
The general temperature I have been feeling across various forms of social media is that people have cooled on that show a little as it has ended.
Well, if you're curious about that, maybe tune in to check out our last podcast in which we did our
previous episode.
We
we did our deep dive on that, so we don't need to.
Yeah, all right. What we need to do is litigate these new shows, these two shows that are getting new seasons.
Seeing as Kyokai Senki is not yet returned as of this recording, I believe it airs within the next 24 hours.
Yes.
It cannot be part of the segment. Oh no!
Don't worry, we'll be bringing it back next podcast.
Next episode, yes.
No, I guess it didn't make it on the preview. No return shows. I guess we just can't talk about it anymore.
You guys don't have to watch Kyokai Senki.
Yes,
I'm not holding a gun to your head.
Don't worry, we will.
We're holding the gun to your head.
That's my guarantee.
All right. Well, let's ease our way into shows by talking about a couple of returning things. Starting with the return of Kaguya-sama Love is War. What is the subtitle they put on this one?
Is it not Love is War?
No, there's a third part of the title they put for
my
season
God,
3.
Love is War.
Something
Ultra
romantic. Ultra romantic. Yes.
Ultra romantic.
That is the official title of season 3.
I see.
G, did you get to watch it?
I did, yes. Of course I did.
Okay, so of course, yes. So
course.
interesting. This aired a little bit later than a lot of the other comedies, and I liked a lot of the other comedies. I'm like, I don't know, they might give Kaguya-sama a run for their money, and then this episode played.
See, Kaguya-sama knows it can be fashionably late because...
Nah, the goat is back.
Remind me, was this the season where they basically produced a 10-minute OVA to announce it?
Yes.
That was an impressive flex, I have to say.
It was.
There's a lot of impressive flexing going on in this episode. But yeah, I think, first of all, I just want to acknowledge, at the end of season 2, everybody dies, which they do acknowledge in the first 30 seconds of this episode.
It's like the end of the first episode of Space Dandy. Like everyone just explodes.
Or every season of Blackadder.
So they kind of pick up where everyone was dying, and then somebody hits continue, yes, no, and
yes, it's pretty good.
We get into season 3.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's everything you love about Kaguya-sama. They kind of pick just kind of random. They just jump right back into some random stories, like without any like setting up any big overarching plot threads yet. So it's sort of easing us back into.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely episode 1 of a new season, right? So they're kind of just hitting you with like, you know, the classics, right? It's a best of hits this episode. You know, like what kind of jokes do you want to hear, and that's sort of what season 3 is bringing,
just
right?
Like, in the first episode, sort of just reestablish the dynamic. And
like
such.
You know, and I think that, as we've often praised with Kaguya-sama, is, you know, it like many anime comedies, it's very outlandish, but many of the jokes land really well because while maybe the moment to moment is outlandish, the premise of the jokes themselves are like extremely grounded in very relatable topics. Literally the first joke of season 3 is about the phenomenon of half plugging in your headphones into your iPod and not realizing it, so the sound leaks out.
Right. It's like you're still getting enough through your headphones that you think it's fully plugged in, but some of it's coming out.
And everybody can hear what you're listening to.
I always have like the higher tech equivalent of worrying that your iPods didn't sync. If you have wireless, like Bluetooth headphones,
right?
Because I've had that happen where I'll like be in the grocery store or something, and I'll hit play on my phone, and the things aren't synced, and it'll just start blasting music or whatever.
Yeah.
I hate to make you look like even more of an old man, Joe, but they're called AirPods, not iPods.
AirPods, I'm sorry. Yes.
I know it's tough to get down with the kids these days, but
those
grocery shopping and start playing Love is War.
Right.
But, and I think the thing that like makes it work right is like that in and of itself could be the premise for a decent joke. But then of course the real meat of the joke is what the person is listening to, right?
Yeah.
And Kaguya-sama, like, you might think, okay, what kind of like embarrassing like idol song is it gonna be? And like Kaguya-sama is operating on a different level of deranged than you might expect, in the way like it gleefully like reveals like just how fucking like kooky these characters are.
Right.
Like even the people, like, and I think that's actually something that really works with Kaguya-sama, right? Is that nobody is above being the butt of the joke. Like even the straight man, even the serious ones, will often end up.
Even Kage and Shirogane, who are supposed to be like the perfect students or whatever, are just as often the butt of the jokes as everybody else.
Yes, exactly, and I think that's what makes it work. Man, the the fucking arm wrestling contest got me really good. Just everything to do with Fujiwara in the arm wrestling contest. Just
she's always the MVP.
Yeah.
Anytime she's on screen. Yeah, I mean, like like with any comedy, it's kind of hard to put this into audio as to why this is all very good. But particularly, I always forget until I watch the show again how like amazing the director is.
Yeah, it's
he's definitely a cut above your average anime comedy director. Like, just some of the stunts they pull. Like my personal favorite was when the narrator's explaining that Kaguya is super strong because she does archery and uses like a male, like she uses like a bow weight that would normally be for like that guys would use.
Oh man, are we having two anime this season about women using sports equipment designed for the build of a man?
I heard during this joke also they just showed part of the previous OP.
Yeah. So to show that the previous OP starts with Kaguya like drawing a bow.
Yeah.
So that was like their example to remind you that hey, we're not just making this up.
And they just play
like,
the first like
2 seconds
of the OP
while he's saying it. Yeah, like they loop the first like 2 seconds of her drawing the bow.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Because I mean the thing is like I think a lot of anime comedies tend to rely on just like outlandish visuals and then really exaggerated voice acting, right? That's kind of the bread and butter.
Make your silly
of
anime face.
This might come up with another show we're going to talk about later as well, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, I think with Kaguya-sama, it's also just like how well directed the timing and the pacing of the jokes are, like its ability to just like cut in cut shots in a way that keeps it frantic and interesting constantly. And yeah, I mean it's Kaguya-sama. Look, it's season 3. I don't know what else we can say. It is the again. I don't know if it is the funniest anime we've ever covered, like of all time on the GLORIO blog, but is maybe the most consistently funny.
Yeah, it's like the of all the comedies that we've watched in the GLORIO era, it's like the most like all-round, like well-rounded.
Right. Like
it covers everything well. Like there are some shows that were maybe just like flat out funnier, but this covers a little bit of everything and it does it like at the highest level.
And no other has kept it up as long as Kaguya-sama.
Right. How often
season 3 and it's still hitting?
Yeah.
How often of a show of any genre are we in season 3 and we're still like firing at the highest level?
I know, right?
It's with no drop off. It's pretty remarkable, especially with a comedy, but like really with any genre. When do we even get a season 3? I mean, it's crazy. So I am
Are you saying Osamatsu-san season 3 isn't the best comedy?
I haven't actually watched season 3 beyond like the first episode or 2, so maybe I can't say, but the fact that I didn't want to watch more than we were just fatigued by it by then, because it's hard to keep the jokes funny after like that many episodes, but they're still doing it. I will be interested to see, because like I said, they don't set up any arcs or anything, and this is a show that does have arcs, so I'm sure we'll get into something. I'm sure we'll get back to the Ishigami Redemption Tour or whatever soon enough, but looking forward to that.
And man, I gotta admit here, because we're just chatting about Kaguya-sama. Man, I've been on kind of a Masayuki Suzuki kick lately.
The guy that sings the
look,
OP.
We've made our thoughts known about maybe some things that dude has done in the past, but man, he's a really good singer.
He is, and the third OP is just as good as the...
Yeah, it's a really good OP.
The other ones, they're very good.
So,
cannot deny that, for sure.
Dude still knows how to belt it out, for better or worse.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move along to the return of Tiger and Bunny.
In fact, speaking of another show that brought back the same OP singer for the new
When
season.
you say the name Tiger and Bunny, I think back to like the primordial beginnings of my interest in anime. Like this is a show I strongly associate
going back to
with my time in university, which was over 10 years ago now. So
yeah, it's crazy that it's been this long, but yeah, Tiger and Bunny 2, it's back. Kotetsu T. Kaburagi and Barnaby Brooks Jr. are back to fight crime.
So, unfortunately, G, I did not watch this because I didn't have time for the movie, and from everything I've heard, you should watch the movie before you do season 2.
Yes, so in preparation for Tiger and Bunny 2, I watched the entirety of the Tiger and Bunny movie, Tiger and Bunny The Rising, last night, in addition to the first episode of the second season, which is out on Netflix. So, as always, the usual disclaimer, all the episodes of Tiger and Bunny 2 are already out there. Thanks, Netflix.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay.
Is it all of them, or is it just a half season?
You're right. I believe it's a half season. The first core. The first 13 episodes. But, I mean, nonetheless, that means it's all out there, which means,
I see.
Once again, we are caught in this uncomfortable place where some people are going to binge watch it, others, like myself, are going to watch it week to week. Yeah, it just kind of sucks, because, as Zig was sort of alluding to, Tiger and Bunny, the first season, was, I think for many people, actually, an early foray into covering seasonal anime. I definitely remember back then that Tiger and Bunny Season 1 was, for many people, their first experience of, like, keeping up with an anime that was airing week to week, kind of, you know, engaging in, at the time, the forum discourse of, like, its, you know, its revelations and its moments. And it's unfortunate.
For me, that was Eden of the East.
Sure, I mean,
it was definitely during that.
It's around that same time period.
It's around that time period.
Yeah, late 2000s.
It was sort of like a perfect storm of tools made available on the internet to blog, combined with easier access to, you know, both legal and otherwise means easier access to currently airing anime. Yeah, that you know, honestly, you know, eventually led to our doing blogging as well. But really, you know, that was like the, you know, that time period was like, definitely
shows.
It was
Tiger...
when the internet tools were mature enough to deliver the content, as you say, both legally and illegally, very easily. And you know, I think the fact that Tiger and Bunny had a very I don't want to say overtly Western, but, you know, it had a familiar set of tropes to build off of, which meant that people could, you know, they could grasp the concept quite quickly.
Right. Yeah. Well, we went into that in depth last time. It does very heavily draw from, like, Western superhero comics. That's kind of the main inspiration. So,
I guess the point I'm making is, like, in the, you know, I wouldn't say it is singularly responsible, but I don't think it would be an understatement to say that, like, Tiger and Bunny is of an era of anime that leads to, I mean, literally us here talking about it in 2022.
Right. It's definitely one of the big ones from that time period, for sure.
And yeah, so I watched the movie, which came out in 2014, so a couple years after the first season. I had never gotten around to it. A few years ago. Yeah, a few years ago, 2014. And it was really solid. It's definitely a self-contained movie plot. You know, Kotetsu and Barnaby, the dynamic duo of Tiger and Bunny, get split up because the company that runs the reality TV series gets bought by a new owner and decides that Kotetsu is old news. He's outplayed. He's the kids don't care about him.
Don't they understand the duo dynamic?
So he gets rid of Kotetsu, and no, don't worry, he understands the value of the duo dynamic because he introduces the new hottest hero on the block.
Of course.
What is his name? Ryan Gold, who has gravity powers. And you know, it's long story short, it's about Kotetsu. You know, it's the subtitle of the movie might as well be How Kotetsu T. Kaburagi Got His Groove Back, because by the end of it, he's back to being a hero. But what's interesting, and what I'd assumed all this time that the movie would have addressed this, but Kotetsu does not get his powers back by the end of that movie. He is still restricted to the 1 minute time limit.
Oh, okay.
And that is true in season 2 as well. He is still the 1 minute wonder. He you know, for
that's not a good nickname.
No, but that's the nickname they give him.
That's the joke, right?
That is the joke, yes. And yeah, so, you know, to summarize real quick for people, because again, the show aired decades ago, Tiger and Bunny is a series about Western style superheroics happening in the fictional city of Sternbild, in a world where corporate sponsored superheroes compete on a reality TV series called Hero TV for points that are earned by stopping crime and rescuing people.
Mm-hmm.
And
also,
I got good news. Yeah.
I was just going to say, also, all of the corporate sponsors are real, which
Are
caused
real.
quite a lot of trouble when it
Yes.
came to localizing that
So
show.
I got good news. The ads are back, baby. Everybody's sporting the corporate
Have you ever seen?
bling.
Did you ever see like some of the releases where they scrubbed a bunch of the ads?
It
off
feels
the
wrong.
suits?
I'm gonna be
it was
honest.
so weird.
It
like,
feels like they're naked. I'm
Yeah.
so used to the ads. Like, if I don't see Kotetsu repping the Lawson logo on his chest, it's not.
Oh, that's right. He doesn't have a
SoftBank
SoftBank anymore,
Or SoftBank.
right?
It's not real. Now,
Yeah.
the bad news.
Oh
The
no.
bad news.
Oh no.
Pepsi Next doesn't exist anymore.
That's
Oh.
right.
The franchise outlived Pepsi Next.
No,
Blue Rose.
like so much time has passed that Pepsi Next is now just regular Pepsi.
Blue Rose ain't repping the Pepsi brand anymore.
What's you got now?
I think it's like an ice cream brand, or it might even be Calpis actually.
Okay.
Like, it's so weird because like her specific like palette was specifically designed
right.
to match the Pepsi.
She looks like a
Next
Pepsi
logo.
can, yes.
So now
Right.
she's repping a
I'm
logo
finding
that's
it's apparently it's a brand of drinkable ice cream.
yeah, that's what it is. And it's just like it's so. It's not actually bad news. It's very funny in its own way. But the good news is it's Tiger and Buddy. It's in a lot of ways it's weird because it feels like it never left. They're just picking up from like where they left off. It's just the adventures of Tiger and Buddy fighting crime in the big city. And you know, as befits a sequel, I guess the main theme so far that I've watched episode 1 is that there's a new generation of heroes to contend with. New, you know, young bucks that have been added to the roster that, you know, are full of piss and vinegar, you know, that they're eager to prove themselves out in the field. And now you know, Buddy is now in some ways the old hand, the veteran, right? Like, which is a contrast to season 1 when he was the new guy, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, they established this very clearly in episode 1 where one of the new heroes calls Barnaby old man. Like, don't
He's
tell
like,
me what to do, old man.
Oh.
And Barnaby literally like
That's fine,
disassociates
that's what
on
I'm
the
saying.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kotetsu is very, very smug about it. It's extremely good.
Yeah.
You know, the two still bicker like an old couple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the Fujos will be very pleased about all the
Does Kotetsu say anything about Barnaby's eyelashes in this episode?
Not quite. They're fighting a little bit, you know, like an old couple. And episode 1 literally opens with them fighting because Kotetsu drank Barnaby's juice out of the fridge.
Well, of course.
And
As you
Barnaby
do.
refuses to speak
I think I've
to
read some
Kotetsu.
fanfics about that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. And so Barnaby refuses to speak to Kotetsu for the rest of the episode. Every time Kotetsu tries to talk to him, Barnaby whips out a fucking little, like, notepad that's written, don't talk to me. Remember,
Some real petty,
please
yeah.
remember, I'm not speaking to you anymore.
If they were really channeling like the spirit of the age, it should have been a talk to the hand graphic.
Yes. But it works out because in the end, even though the two are not on speaking terms, they take on, you know, a super-powered villain at the end of the first episode that the new heroes are struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
And Kotetsu and Barnaby non-verbally figure out a plan to stop the villain by working together because they're just so in sync, you know? Like, they can feel each other's intentions because they just worked together so long.
Of course.
And that's what being a pro hero is all about.
Right.
And it works. You know, they continue a lot of the just really good character dynamics from the original. Another plot line they introduced in episode 1 is a very good like meta, like in and out of universe change. Is that Hero TV in its newest season is introducing the buddy system because Tiger and Bunny were such a successful duo the past season. Now every hero is no longer going solo. They're running duo teams. But it's running to the very funny scenario of a lot of these guys started their career as solo heroes. They get along with their coworkers, but they've never had to like actually work with them like this before. And it's leading to some really funny like office style humor of like you got like what's his name, like Iron Bull and the Russian Weeb Ninja are paired up, and like after they're doing their super heroics, they're kind of like just sitting there facing each other in chairs and doing like fucking like corporate trust exercise shit. like our Iron Bull is like, okay, now tell me, how did you feel about how my heroics were in that lab? And it's just like, it's so fucking like, it's really good. Like,
even the first season was best when it could like skewer some of the like cliches about mass media and how they were messing about with how much of it is a show and how much of it is them genuinely doing heroics.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's encouraging to hear that they're leaning into that stuff.
It's working really well, and I don't know about the new heroes just yet. The new characters seem like kind of whatever, but maybe that's intentional. They're like, you got like a new duo of like heroes who wear matching black and white power armor, except their names are Mr. Black and his counterpart, and this is his full superhero name, he is called Thomas.
So we have Mr. Black, and he is called Thomas.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, is it going to be Mr. White?
No, not even. It doesn't even factor in. It doesn't factor in even a little bit.
He is called Thomas. Is coming in for the save.
That's literally. It's the same like narrator from season 1 saying in Japanese like, yes, he is Karu Thomas, and it's like, oh my god.
Oh, that's great.
Without a hint of irony,
right.
it's so good. I'm so glad it's back.
It sounds like it was a good way to get everybody back into the mood.
Definitely. One last thing I have to shout out, because there's never going to be another opportunity for this. One thing I will say that was really good about the movie The Rising is that there's a really good plot line about Fire Emblem. For those who don't remember, is a queer black superhero.
Yeah. Yes.
Who has fire manipulation abilities, and they are attacked by the villain of the movies, a power which sends you into your darkest like nightmare, right? You go into a coma, and you experience your darkest, lowest moments, right? And so they do this really excellent, like, and especially for 2014, really nuanced, really understanding take on like Fire Emblem's childhood and his growth as a person, and like how he kind of became the like queer icon he is like currently in the show. Or they don't really make it clear either way, but it kind of ends with like, oh no, they're like in despair, will they be able to overcome it? And it ends with this utterly fantastic sequence where Fire Emblem is like, breaking out of the I don't know how to call it, the miasma, right? The darkness.
The Lotus Eater machine.
And their speech is, they say, the heroic speech they give when they break out of the Lotus Eater machine and fight back against the villain who put them in there in the first place. They say a man is made of courage and a woman is made of love. So what does that mean for people that are queer? That means we are invincible.
It's a pretty good line.
Good.
Yeah, all right.
It's pretty good.
I'm really
it's
encouraged
so
because
good.
that's really good, because I felt occasionally in season 1 that character bordered on the edge of parody, and it was
Right.
never outright offensive, but like it's good to know that even as far back as 2014, obviously they were taking the character seriously and giving them this kind of interesting storyline.
Yes, and I don't want to like necessarily paper over it all, because look, I know they are still often played for comic relief from time to time. I guess the reason why I'm more forgiving to the portrayal of Fire Emblem and Tiger and Bunny in general is that every character is played for humor much of the time, right? Characters like Sky High, who is the,
Nobody
like,
escapes.
Superman analog, they make fun of how much of a stuck-up square he is. And so I think everybody kind of gets jokes like,
Right.
everybody gets has that sort of like humor poked at them. And so that's why I'm not like as like, I don't take as much issue with how Fire Emblem is sometimes portrayed, because stuff like that moment they get in the movie is like so fucking sincere and like well done that it's like, damn, these writers, they're kind of on some shit. They're operating on a level that goes above and beyond what I feel like a lot of anime writing often does when dealing with characters like this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
they're usually not willing to take it that far.
Yeah.
And be that like open about it. And yeah. No, that's cool.
But yeah, Tiger Bunny 2.
All right. Well, you know,
great.
I will once the new shows settle down, I might try to catch up with that. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. But you know, I did enjoy the first season for the most part. So we talked we went in depth on that last time, but you know, I still might want to check it out. So. All right.
Got some stuff to get through here.
Yeah, we got a lot to do here. So, we'll get into new things now. G, you put on the list, actually, did you want to talk about this manga before we get into the anime?
Yeah, I actually, because I literally read it like 2 hours ago. Look, it's part of the new season. You know, it aired
sure.
just now. Look, if we could talk about puppets and guys in suits, we could talk about manga occasionally.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to Tatsuki Fujimoto of Chainsaw Man fame's new one-shot Goodbye Eri that is was just released on Jump Plus, so their online publication. And I was...
So just to clarify, this is his second critically acclaimed one-shot, right?
Yes.
Because since Chainsaw Man.
Since Chainsaw Man, yes.
Since Chainsaw Man, yes. He did another one last year called Look Back.
Which was very good, I seem to recall.
Yes, it was very well received. And Goodbye Eri is a little bit similar in that, I mean, for better or worse, Fujimoto is writing what he knows, and I'll admit I'm a little biased here because what Fujimoto knows is being a creator, and so, like Look Back, Goodbye Eri is a story about kind of what it means to create, what it means to be a creator, and it's just a really impressive, self-contained showcase of his talents. It's unbelievably raw. It's super funny, and above all, it's very surreal. And yeah, I'm consistently impressed by the way that dude handles storytelling in manga. The thing that often people say about Fujimoto is that he composes manga like he's shooting film, and that's not to say that like film is the superior medium or anything like that, but it's more like it gives his works a very unique quality, like to the way they're paced, to the way they're composed. And I don't want to reveal too much because I think with a lot of Fujimoto's one-shots, the joy is discovering the twists and turns on their own. So the most brief synopsis I'll give is that Goodbye Eri is about a student filmmaker named Yuta who creates a film for his like student, school culture festival or whatever.
Right.
And it is received extremely poorly because of what is perceived as something that he does that is extremely tasteless in his film. To the point where it makes him sort of a social pariah for what he has, the subject of his film.
He showed an idol who was married?
Exactly. But, and then...
Yeah, I've heard, because I've already been seeing buzz about it, most people are saying the less you know, the better, probably, going into it, right?
And so that's kind of maybe all I want to say about it, is that the story is then about Yuta working on his next film.
Okay.
He is... After the like just really critical negative backlash.
How do you follow up after like a complete flop that ruins everyone's opinion of you?
Yes, that is basically like what it is thematically. Is how do you come back from that? How do you come back from people being so thoroughly like put off by your work that
they want nothing to do with you? Look.
And that you're convinced that nobody will ever give you a chance ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you create a work coming from that place? How do you, because again, like as much as like creators are often told like, you should make work for yourself or you should make what makes you happy, we don't live in a vacuum. We make work well aware of our audiences and that we are going to be sharing this work with people as a whole, and that sharing, because creators, whether big or small, right, whether you're doing like grounded semi-autobiographies or you draw robots for a living, either way you are putting a part of yourself into the work you make. And to share it is to become vulnerable. And
it allows people to get you under your armor to a certain degree.
Exactly. And I'd say in a lot of ways that is fundamentally what Goodbye Eri is about. And man, I mean that's kind of all I want to say about it. It's just really impressive.
I see how that could be similar subject matter to Look Back.
Yes.
Right.
And I just, every time I get a little bit worried about how long it's taking him to work on Chainsaw Man 2, he puts out these one-shots that reassure you that, like, no, the man has not lost his spark in the slightest. Like, becoming, getting published in Weekly Shonen Jump has not hampered his creativity in the slightest bit. He is still, like, just as capable of creating, like, really cool, compelling, and genuinely strange stories. And I mean, just makes me more excited for Chainsaw Man 2. So
yeah, Chainsaw Man the anime coming out later this year, presumably.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Is there a date? Season
Nope.
For that?
Nope.
So that is why people are a little skeptical about the anime.
I mean, they made a trailer, right? So
they did.
Something has been done with it.
I mean, I would not be surprised if that slips to next year, and I would not have a problem with that either.
And just to like tangentially tie it back to us talking about this season of anime, it is published in the same publication that another very well-regarded manga/anime will be talking about in this podcast. So
further down the list, we got
much further down the list.
Wait, they made an anime out of something in Shonen Jump? Whoa!
Wow! All right.
Well, specifically Jump Plus, their online publication.
Let's get into the anime then, starting with something that didn't make our preview show because it just looked like a sports anime.
I told you every time, every season.
And we got one of our big surprises this season, which was Birdie Wing Golf Girl Story.
Man.
Now, I don't know why I decided to watch this because, like, if you read the description, it was like
it's supposed to be like dull, right? Yeah.
It's like
golf, already the most boring of all sports.
Right.
Except baseball.
What I almost don't want to like spoil what actually happens in the episode because I feel like the shock value of just watching it is worth it.
I mean,
maybe I'll just
can I just interrupt? I was going to say, like, I've not watched this. The only thing, like, literally everybody who has told me is that it's insane beyond, like, comprehension.
So
it's not
like ostensibly on the surface, it is about this woman who is very good at golf, and she's essentially a shady back alley golf hustler.
She's a golf Ronin.
Yeah. So she golf hustles people out of money playing golf. And
it's not even like she hustles people out of money. It's like people hire her for her golf skills.
Well, yes, she also gets hired. Yeah. So the one crazy thing I'll give away because it happens like the first 30 seconds of the episode, and this is immediately when I knew something was wrong. So
yes.
So like the beginning like shot of the episode, like the cold open of the episode, is like a golf tournament or something, and like within like the first minute, one of the golfers like comes back into an office and is talking to another woman that looks exactly like her, and then she pulls off her like Mission Impossible mask.
Yes.
Yep.
To reveal the main character was
a big season for photorealistic masks happening.
And I'm like, okay, this is not going to be a regular golf anime.
I mean, even just the implication that this person, our protagonist Eve, who I might point out her full nom de guerre is Eve the Rainbow Bullet.
Yes,
sure.
Eve the Rainbow Bullet, as she's known.
Nom de golf.
Yeah.
Is this? Oh no, go on.
the fact that she's good enough to play in this professional tournament and like
In
so good that she
disguise,
could win it, but like the woman's like, no, I don't want you to win it. I want you to get to like 4th place or something.
Right,
like that.
because she was hired because the actual golfer injured her leg, and so she hired Eve to
As
place
a stand-in.
well in the tournament, but not so well that people go, how'd her leg heal so quickly?
And that she was able to like disguise herself to look exactly like it, on a televised, on a publicly televised.
Basically, like she's a golf mercenary.
Yeah,
and again, it's like, okay, so here's the thing. All right, to kind of like pull this all back, the thing that like really won me over about how deranged this show is like this first episode is like channeling like here. So here's the crazy thing, right? Is like some of you guys watch and read more sports manga and anime than others, but like all of this has been done. Like has been roughly been done before in sports, like.
Right,
in sports manga,
of course.
And like the thing that's like really insane though is like how unflinchingly it eagerly does it all, like with a straight face.
Yeah, and it just runs through like every plot point like a brick wall. Like
right, like the plot line is literally that Eve is like grew up on the mean streets of this vaguely American European city. She grew up on the streets with her adopted family of like orphans and outcasts, and how golf was the only way she could survive. Like how on the mean streets her only options were either slinging dope or playing golf.
Golf, the game of the people.
Right,
yeah, exactly. Right, that's what's funny.
That's what makes it so funny. It's like
right,
like,
golf's for a rich asshole.
Right, like here she is, like fucking doing fucking samurai fucking training, like golfing, like line driving golf balls at the same like tree trunk over and over again. Golfing. Yeah, you're like hitting wedge shots into like coffee cans in an abandoned warehouse. It's like it's patently absurd, but
how crazy is this on a scale of 1 to Keijo?
It's not Keijo. I mean,
it's not Keijo, but like, because that's the thing, right? Like, it's still golf, right? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
but like, it's not like
at its core, it is still like a sports anime.
Mm-hmm.
If we're comparing to like the more like crazy over the top type of sports anime, but
right,
like you said, those are things that have been done before, right? To me, it was just like the way they just casually plow through huge dramatic plot points without like any like stopping to like reflect on what just happened or anything.
So I guess the question there is this good or is this so bad it's good? Like, or is this just so oblivious of the meanings of good or bad that it attains some sort of weird majesty?
I mean, I'm having fun.
Yeah, I guess
I think it's
I don't
fairly self-aware.
Yeah, I guess.
I think they know what they're doing. I don't feel like it's
Yeah, because like it is gleefully playing up these like very like familiar like sports tropes. Like in this episode, they introduce a character, who is like kind of the rich girl, golfer, right? And not the rival.
Her daddy is like a retired famous golfer or
something like that. And she specifically says that she refuses to play against Eve because it would be a disgrace to his golfing ideals, right? Like she is basically the very familiar archetype in sports manga of the familial inheritor, who in sports manga is the trope of a character who specifically plays a sport reminiscent of the way their father or mother played the sport, and thus believes that that family member's style was the strongest, and to prove the validity of that style, insists on only using that person's style. The most common example of this is probably the character Miyata from Hajime no Ippo, who purposely uses a boxing style that's contrary to his physical build because it's the boxing style that his father utilized. And it's a very common trope, and this show just like is just like gleefully introducing this character, like without a hint of irony, and also for the sport of golf,
right?
Which just like enhances the absurdity of it.
There's also some very hilarious product placement because this was made by Namco Bandai.
Yep.
God, right.
Which I kind of don't want to spoil it.
Yes.
The only one I would mention is the like random Pac-Man golf balls. And like just out of nowhere, the one girl's like, "Pac-Kun, guide me," as she's hitting her drive, and then they zoom in on Pac-Man on her golf ball for no reason, with no explanation or anything, other than
what really made me lose it, I thought was so funny, is like midway through the episode, they're talking, like Eve and her friend are, they're earning money because they know another lady who's an illegal immigrant. And she's running like an underground bar, and she's taking care of some orphan children in her underground bar, right? And they just got shaken down by the cops. And so the bartender lady is like, it's the middle of the day, and she takes a shot at tequila, and they're all lamenting their lot in life. And she's about to pour herself another shot, and Eve puts her hand on her head, like, no. You don't need to resort to...
You don't need to drink it. Yeah.
Don't need to resort to this. And then it immediately cuts to, like, some fucking montage in sepia tone of Eve just posing around the city on the streets while this insert song plays. And
that's what I'm saying, how they just, like, blow through, like, every
funny.
Single...
It's deranged. I keep using the word, but that's what this is. This show is, like, it's
just non-stop moments like that. Wild things happening.
And I guess the thing I'll say though is like I think the thing that is all kind of hovering above our head is like it's just hard to tell if it can continue this energy. Like, is this whole show, or like is this just the first episode? Like they introduce the conventional rival character at the end of the first episode, who's like. She's a pro of, the legitimate scene, right? She plays in tournaments. And the rival calls the sport of golf sacred, right? That she says that to play golf for money would be to besmirch the sport, right? And implicitly insulting Eve as a result, right? And it's like, well, where is this going? Like, is Eve going to just join the tournament and it's just going to become a conventional sports anime? Like, are we going to get more underground matches? Like, what's
that is my
here?
concern, because if you watch, I don't remember if it was the preview in the episode or just the trailer for the thing. It does show Eve like on like in a real tournament,
right?
Like,
wearing actual golf clothes.
So my hope, so we know that's going to happen. My hope is that there's still going to be like ridiculous shady things going on in the background. Like does she get like blackmailed into joining the tournament? Or something, and like just has to find her way to get how to get out of it or something. I don't know, but
also,
I mean, I think the formality and kind of like traditions of a golf tournament would be a very good place to like break a bunch of rules and turn it into a nightmare.
Yes.
Yes.
So.
Also, I just gotta shout at this like unbelievably good galaxy-brained like visual storytelling. Is that Eve only golfs with 3 clubs.
Yes.
She has a driver, a putter, and a single wedge. And she explicitly, like, golfs with bad form to angle the wedge to compensate for the fact that she doesn't own other wedges. And
what kind of driver is it?
I mean, I don't think they specify the brand of it.
No, I meant, like, is it like a 9 wood or like a 23 wood or anything like that? Do they give it a stupid
They don't give it the number.
Oh, it's a shame.
The only time they mention anything is that
the rival
is that when given the option of a full like selection of clubs, she still defaults to using a 7 wedge for every like shot, implying that that's kind of the one she grew up with. And it's like, it makes sense because she's poor. Think about how expensive golf clubs are. Of course she can only afford 3. Yeah. And it's so good. Like, and
yes.
And
then,
yes,
in spite of that, she can hit golf balls through trees.
Exactly.
With her rainbow bullet.
Yes, but they do imply the strength of her rival because her rival brandishes her her monstrous 48-inch driver shaft, which causes the classic sports anime freeze frame of everybody going, "My God!"
Right.
48
she's
inches.
Like a tiny little teenage girl. She has the yeah.
It's like pulling out a fucking Buster Sword.
Yeah, basically the Buster Sword of golf. Yeah, it's so like they know enough of what they're
a lump
doing.
Of iron.
Yes.
Yeah, and the way it's presented, yes, the way it's presented, I think they do know exactly what they're doing. Which is, yeah, which is why I would hesitate from calling this bad.
Right.
But is it?
I think it's just it's operating.
I guess we'll
operating
see.
So purely on its own wavelength that at least right now, conventional like qualifiers just don't apply to it.
Yeah. Can't wait to see another episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully it keeps it up.
Yeah.
Something that's just wacky and fun.
All right. Well, speaking of wacky and fun, let's go on to our next show here. Okay, so I left it in the notes as Aharen-san Is Indecipherable.
Uh-huh.
Crunchyroll decided not to localize the title for some reason, which is very weird.
Oh, so were you able to decipher the title?
No.
I wonder if that's like a weird
request
from I wonder if that's like a weird request from the Japanese side or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but it actually is listed in Crunchyroll as Aharen-san wa Hakarenai.
Huh.
So it's unusual.
Another Shonen Jump Plus.
Oh, is this Shonen Jump Plus?
Oh wow, I didn't know.
Well, I talked about on the preview show how there is not really much to say description-wise about this show. It is about this guy who he's very kind of stoic and he has a mean-looking face, so he doesn't have any friends. But he's determined to make friends because he's actually a really nice person.
Oh, I love Toradora.
Yes, so he's determined to make friends with whoever sits next to him in class, which turns out to be this tiny little girl who like can barely talk. You can barely hear her talking. She talks very quiet, and she does not understand the concept of personal boundaries. And
just get real close for them to hear her, right?
Yes, and so somehow they immediately become friends and try to understand each other. And yes, that sounds very boring, but I actually really liked the first 2 episodes are out. I actually really like this. This is probably going to end up being one of those like gel comedies that nobody watched. This will go on the list.
Sure.
But it's a great example of how, having a ridiculous, wacky premise or something can help, but it's not really as important as having good writing and good comedic timing and like execution.
Right. And you would say the show has those qualities then? And that's kind of what's making it work? Okay.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because like both of them, it's a little unusual in that both of the main characters are both quiet. Like
I was gonna say it's an interesting dynamic, right? Usually you have like the straight man and then the funny man sort of duo, right? But
if I'm gonna do some shots fired here, I feel like it's kind of doing what Komi Can't Communicate wants to do.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean it does sound. You described this premise. I was just thinking of that.
So it kind of does a better job of I think what they're trying to accomplish. So shots fired, come at me.
Battle lines drawn.
And because they use that like kind of since both the main characters are quiet, there's a lot of like empty awkward silence and stuff, but it makes it so that when there is like some like visual gags or like some physical comedy or something, it like almost like punctuates it. It's very effective. And there were a lot of like genuine like laugh out loud moments for me in these episodes of just like as far as like visual comedy and like again, those things you have to execute them well, and that's hard to do, but they pull it off. I can't really explain on the podcast. You have to just kind of watch it. But it's also a little bit different in that I often talk about how I like shows about lovable dirtbags, and these actually are just nice people. So like they are nice people being nice to each other most of the time.
Hey, there's always room for that.
yeah, so it's it's very pleasant to watch. I think the one bit I would highlight to kind of give you an idea of how the show operates is like they go to an arcade and they don't say anything to each other. The main guy just assumes, because he sees the girl look over at the crane machine, that she wants the little plushy guy in the machine, but they don't say anything. He just assumes. So he goes over. So he goes over and he like puts his money in and he's trying to win it and he can't get it. And finally, he runs out of money and he's just like, well, sorry, maybe we just need to move on. And so she doesn't say anything. She just puts her money in and then she like grabs like five plushies out of there, and then she takes the big pile of them and hands them over to the guy and just like, it looked like you wanted one of these, so you can have these. So like that's the tone of the show basically in one gag.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I'm gonna be interested in seeing how they do the rest of the characters. They introduce another character in episode 2 that's like kind of okay. It's like her like other friend that she has that's like super protective of her. And,
of course.
I think the problem is with not the problem, but like the tough part of these shows is always kind of like expanding your cast beyond the core relationship. Right?
Yeah. But
I feel like this is where like you make or break anime comedies is what does the extended cast look like, because
I mean if we're taking Kaguya-sama as the gold standard this season, then that's like the prime example of how your cast makes your main couple better, right?
Yeah.
Or even steals the show oftentimes.
Yes.
Right.
So
well, hey, I mean, if hopefully it's got legs, then that it can keep this keep the dynamic interesting for the rest of its run.
So yeah, I'm afraid it is going to be doomed to my cult favorite comedy list, but anybody out there listening, go check it out. But yeah.
Well, speaking of cult favorites, right?
Or maybe doomed. Let's talk about Black Rock Shooter Downfall.
Yeah, isn't that like a
Dawnfall?
Isn't that like a Hatsune?
Was that a
Freudian slip?
Freudian slip there. Dawnfall. Yes, not Downfall.
Yeah, isn't Black Rock Shooter like a Miku thing?
Yeah, isn't there a cult around Black Rock Shooter?
We did the deep dive last episode of what Black Rock Shooter is.
We already did the BRS bit.
I gave the whole
time.
history last time.
And
Zig
I also
in his post, so we don't need to retread what Black Rock Shooter is.
Well, tell us about Dawnfall specifically then. How does this stack up?
So weird. Like, I have no idea who this is for, or like whose idea this was, or like. And the thing is, I'm not entirely sure it's all bad either. Like there are. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
So like, this is Black Rock Shooter, but also it has nothing to do with any previous Black Rock Shooter property. Is that correct?
No, correct. And I mean, like, what is the property? The property is a bunch of cool-looking art and a song by Supercell.
I guess.
Well, no, I mean, there was a previous anime, and then there was the PSP game.
So like,
there was established storylines from before.
Right, but the PSP game had nothing to do with the anime, if I recall correctly.
So this is the continuing the trend of whatever. These are standalone stories or entities, I guess.
Right, and like, I don't know. There's nothing. There's something here. Like, it's a very weird kind of like freaky post-apocalyptic thing that's like alternately like odd and fucked up in the way you kind of want anime to be, and sometimes just the most generic thing in the universe, and it can't seem to decide which one of those it wants to be.
I got some real store brand Nier Automata vibes.
Yeah, like definitely that kind of like weird, kooky kind of like.
We have to be at home.
Exactly.
kind of like what's the word?
She's literally voiced by 2B also.
Oh, is she?
It's also unfair because Black Rock Shooter preceded 2B by a huge amount of time, but.
I mean, but also, like, it preceded it in the sense that there was nothing to it back then, you know. Yeah. But it's so that kind of, like, strangely nihilistic view of the future. Like, there's a lot of the Terminator here as well, just in terms of like, yo, there was a robot rebellion, and now we're in this sort of blasted out future where machines reign supreme. There's a really weird, fucked up fairground doll dude as the main bad guy, and like,
I mean, speaking of again, more of these like unintentional comparisons, but I saw screenshots of this doll guy. And is that dude's bedroom just full of like red Drakengard babies or something?
Yeah,
like,
that's why I said that. But also like
he's introduced fucking someone to death.
Yeah.
Like it's really like to be clear, they are really clearly going for like the weirdly dissonant kind of like dark kind of
that's a hell of an intro.
But he's also like looks like a Ken doll, right? It's like
and like he's got weird like pseudo religious writing over all his chest, and like
this is just reminding me of that horrible the new Ghost in the Shell. Like, do you guys remember the gifs of the backflipping naked guy?
Yes.
Yeah, like
I will say this show is not a great looker, but it does look better than that.
Okay.
Low bar, but yes.
Yeah, it is a pretty ugly show. You know, like it's all CGI, and it's not good CGI. Like, I think one of the reasons why they lent into the like all the bad guys are like freakish robots and stuff like that is because just their human animation is not very good at all. Like the Black Rock Shooter design was always like weirdly jailbaity and kind of a noodle person, but she just looks very creepy in this rendition.
And would you say that even this is somewhat of a departure, or not departure, but the thing I'd always heard about Black Rock Shooter is like, even at its worst, it was a visually impressive display
absolutely.
Of like animation and action.
I mean, I thought, and again, I'm talking about the Audette TV show here, not the one-shot OVA, which was very bad. It's the TV show that had the same basic premise, and that premise was kind of like a Madoka Magica-esque, you know, these girls in the real world are mirrored in the Black Rock Shooter characters, kind of in a battle in the mind. I liked it a lot. I know some people are not quite as hot on like the story and character stuff, but everybody agrees it looked fantastic.
Bunch of Trigger Boys.
And I like that concept better than the generic post-apocalyptic savior story as well.
It was much more visually distinctive as well. And I mentioned this in the post, but it's worth pointing out that show had some extreme A-tier talent on it. You know, it was written by Mari Okada, and the vast majority. It was only 8 episodes, and I think every episode was directed by either Hiroyuki Imaishi or Akira Amamiya before he was famous for like Gridman.
Famous for
but like
Inferno Cop.
You mean Inferno Cop?
Yes, sorry. Yes, famed Inferno. This might when was Inferno Cop? This might be post Inferno Cop.
I think it's pre.
I think it's still pre Inferno Cop.
Trigger
anyway,
didn't exist as a studio.
No, it did. It did.
Did.
Trigger was founded in 2010, and this was 2012. Right.
But when did, I guess Kill la Kill aired in what,
2013.
2013. Okay.
I think it was one of those cross-year
Inferno Cop
ones.
was from the end of 2012 into 2013.
So roughly contemporaneous.
It is pre Inferno Cop.
Yeah.
Inferno Cop had no pre-productions. Be real. They said they said at Anime Expo that
let's try and get back on track though.
All right.
Yes, that show was spectacular. It had terrific fights, as you would expect. Like even like quite a lot of that show was CGI as well, and it was good CGI because Sanzigan did the CGI in that
the
show.
CGI from the show from 10 years ago was better than the
God, that's I feel like again I hate to derail, but I think that is maybe the most depressing thing to me about anime CG is that we don't even have like a linear like chart of improvement as year to year goes.
It's just from show to show.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
who's
helps
doing the CG for this then? Like for Dawnfall?
It's by. Is it a Chinese studio or?
Let me check.
Like it's called. I can't remember off the top of my head either.
That's okay. I was just curious if it was one of the usual suspects.
No,
it's not like Orange or something.
I think they're called Birdie.
Birdie Animation Studios.
Yeah.
Okay, not familiar with that.
Like this absolutely seems like a completely tossed off thing that nobody gave budget to or anything like that, which again just leads me to the question of why, but
like why bring back Black Rock Shooter then?
But like
at all then?
it's not like it's like a hot property in 2022.
No,
right?
and
like,
again, there's nothing to it. That's the thing, you know. Even I, as somebody who liked, you know, the previous show, you know, it's not as if there's no way that you could. Again, like Black Rock Shooter has no character. Those things are literally just like bits of
Here's
fancy
my cool
art
OC design.
Yeah, it is literally that. So, and it's very odd, you know. I mean, like, the show is ugly and flat and grey. The character animation is bad. Like, the enemy animation is, like, one of the weird things about the weird smiling guy and, like, his minions is that they are so artistically different from everything else in the show that it kind of feels like they were transplanted from a way wackier show. And, you know, like, everything else is just boring grey mountains. There's lots and lots of like
right, like you also have like regular ass military dudes and Hummers, right?
I noticed this when I was rewatching for the post, but like almost every human character who's not Black Rock Shooter has their mouth covered in some form, just to avoid
classic.
Like they're all wearing like gas masks or stuff
Give
like that.
Give everybody the
know.
full face mask.
Yeah,
Right.
and like even like creepy puppet dude doesn't speak because his mouth is a creepy puppet. So like it's like it is one of those little telltale signs, you know, that they are trying to. And again, I'm not blaming the studio.
Like giving all your
like
characters wheels instead of legs, right?
Yes, there is a lot of that. For example, Black Rock Shooter now has a talking motorbike.
That was in the well, I guess it didn't talk, but the motorcycle she had in the game.
Oh, okay. Well,
it was interesting that I do see some of the DNA from the game, and we talked about this again last time, where that had a lot more of like real military type of influence.
Yeah, and I definitely think there's a lot of like the stuff of like, oh, we might be able to attract like the weird military otaku crowd with this. Like, there's a lot of fetishization of actual weapons and like overtly technological stuff.
As a weird military otaku, I'm just gonna say that like you can't just throw an M4 and a Humvee in front of me and I'm gonna go, oh yeah, that's the stuff I like. No, like,
yeah.
Look, you gotta be doing your like gunslinger
put the
girl
drum magazine on his Calico SMG and
yeah, you gotta be doing some gunsmith cats shit if you want to like get that crowd interested.
Yeah. And it's very weird. Like Black Rock Shooter herself is barely a character. She doesn't speak at all, and she seems perpetually dazed. You know, like because
she's an amnesiac robot who won't come.
Well, yeah, but also probably because the CG is not up to animating like much facial animation. But there's something about the weird vibe of it which makes me interested, but I can't really say that it was good on any level. You know, I mean, I think Jill, you were much less ambivalent and more.
I wouldn't say that it was like absolutely awful, but it just kind of like went in one ear and out the other for me. Like there was just nothing going on here that was like unique or interesting or, you know, so well done that you couldn't just ignore it. So. And I think, you know, in some ways I'm often in favor of like just making new stories, but
yeah, I'm broadly in favor of that.
I feel like it doesn't help in this case because like that's your one thing that, you know, you might be able to tie back to other, I don't know, something.
Yeah,
just give me something other than you know, gray post-apocalypse.
Yeah, this is such a generic. Like they pivoted into such a generic genre piece, you know.
It's
actually,
millions of
man, thinking about like anime and sci-fi and CG, like how many steps above X Arms is Dawnfall?
I mean, it is a considerable step
like
above that. Like,
it
looks
still
like
looks
a show.
like a professionally done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still looks like it's a
like I was watching this and thinking that doesn't look great, but at no point did I think this should never have been allowed on television.
right. It's still like I said, it still looks like it's done by professionals. It's just not very good.
Yeah, but I mean, I think part of it is art direction as well, like that. And again, I hate to keep referring back to the 2012 show, but if you call it Black Rock Shooter, you know, like that 2012 show had a terrific like art direction that was centered around color themes for each major character. Another thing that I'm interested to see is like some of the Black Rock Shooter characters have very overtly fantastical designs. I'm thinking about Deadmaster in particular, who's all like skulls and scythes and stuff, and that will just not fit this look. You know, like
the only other character we saw was Strength, who does kind of fit.
Yeah, Strength has gigantic mecha arms, you know, but I didn't particularly like her character redesign, and I don't like the Black Rock Shooter character redesign either. You know, like
I agree.
It's a fascinating mess. Yeah, and I will probably give it another episode or two just to see like if there's just out of curiosity, but I can't really recommend it on any legitimate level.
I do want to mention one more thing on this, and that is the new contender in messing up how we watch anime.
Oh boy.
This is streaming. So this is the first anime I can think of.
That's right.
That's streaming on Disney Plus, and
I think it will be on. I think it will be on TV at some point.
Also, when you say Disney Plus, like, you mean that like an American with a Disney Plus account can watch this?
No.
Japanese?
It is regional. I tried because I have a Disney Plus account and you cannot watch it.
In Japan, yes. If you have a Japanese Disney Plus account, you can watch it. And
all right, because I was about to say, you're telling me a show in which someone fucks a person to death is being allowed on Disney Plus? Like,
well, I believe it was announced that it will be released internationally.
Oh man!
But
I should point out that that scene is not especially explicit.
No, I wouldn't imagine it, but still.
Yeah. I have a feeling, and they haven't said anything officially because of course they won't. It's Disney. I have a feeling they're going to be doing the Netflix thing where they just dump all the episodes when they're fully dubbed and everything.
A Disney Plus original.
Yeah. So the only way we could watch this was via machine translated fan subs because nobody fan subs anything anymore.
Yes.
So
return to tradition.
I had to import my own ASS file for the first time in like 10 years. I wanted to mention that also because there's another anime that we talked about, Summertime Rendering.
Sure.
That is also in Disney Plus Hell. That's the new Hell.
And the new Circle of Hell just came out.
As of recording, I did not. New Circle of Hell just dropped. As of recording, that has not had subs or anything yet, so we have not been able to watch that. But yeah, just when we thought Crunchyroll had that monopoly, huh? We're stuck here again. But
watching anime is just becoming such a goddamn nightmare lately.
Yeah,
more than usual.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to something more positive.
It used to be that watching anime was the hardest part about being an anime fan.
Yeah. All right.
Let's move on to something more positive.
Yeah.
It's your boy.
Let's talk about your boy Kongming.
It's your boy.
Yeah. Zhuge Liang, courtesy name Kongming.
Yes.
This seems like a good example of translation, I will say.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
this is a good localized title.
To recap, this is the show about Zhuge Liang, courtesy name Kongming, being reborn and reincarnated into modern day Japan.
Moments after his death, he just wakes up in Shibuya.
Yeah.
Yes, and he meets this girl who is an aspiring singer, and he is so inspired by her talent that he decides to be her manager.
Not an idol.
And use his
not an idol. A singer.
Not an idol. She's an actual singer.
Yes.
And he decides to use his talents as a master tactician.
Yeah.
To help her gambare her way to the top
of the music industry.
Which industry.
One could argue is just as chaotic and violent as medieval China.
As the Three Kingdoms period, yeah.
Yes.
That's the Three Kingdoms period. I would say this is not quite what I thought I wanted.
Not quite.
But then when I got it, I was like, oh, maybe this is what I wanted.
I think that is the interesting thing about this show is that when reverse isekai, I mean, look, you know, as Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure has shown us, reverse isekai is a fantastic premise for for a story. But
yes.
I think we all probably went into this thinking, okay, the jokes are going to be Zhuge Liang, man out of time, fish out of water, thrown into the modern day, and him trying to like keep up with that stuff, right? But with the second episode, it's made it pretty clear that the music industry angle is actually probably the primary plot, the primary plot beat of the story. And
I mean, would you say then that this is an example of a increasingly common genre, which is hiding stories inside isekai trappings to get them approved?
Well, my understanding is that this is an adaptation of a manga.
Right.
This is a manga adaptation. Yep.
It's not necessarily them trying to shoot. I mean, maybe on the original author's part, it was an attempt to shoehorn the story they wanted to tell into.
Or like Hikaru no Go. It's like
So I agree. Like the focus is like music industry, and in a way, kind of linking this to this being done by PA Works, this almost starts to feel like one of their working women shows.
I know, right? Yeah.
But the Three Kingdoms factor does come into play, right? Like
it does.
They still use that as part of the humor,
and it's a pretty solid basis. At least so far, it feels like they have utilized it fairly effectively as a good jumping point for the jokes. Like, beyond just Zhuge Liang being a man at a time, they very much, lead into his reputation. The tactics he became known for, and to prove that this show is definitely not being too serious, right? Like they are adapting tactics he used in Romance of the Three Kingdoms to some like utterly absurd ways in the show itself, right? Like the second episode is a great example of that. Of like, he's using his classic powers of misdirection to get Eiko more listeners to her music at like the pop event or whatever.
If you go back and check the tape, I think I almost said the exact same thing. I didn't use that specific tactic with the Stone Sentinels or whatever, but but I was like, is he gonna have to like be like, I remember this whatever event, and I'm gonna use that to pack the club, and that's exactly what he does.
That's exactly what he does
in episode 2, and I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted.
If we get more of that, then I think we definitely have a pretty solid premise on our hands.
Yeah. Aside from that, I was kind of surprised how I don't want to say serious because it's still a lighthearted show, but like I guess I'll say how seriously they take the music industry angle part of it. Like he's like legitimately trying to help her become a singer, and it's like that's like a very earnest part of the story. It's not like they're doing it as a joke.
Eiko's desire to become a singer is treated as a very legitimate goal.
Yes,
that's they're actually putting that in as like the emotional core of
she's
the...
like singing. She's like doing shows at small clubs and stuff. Like
and I guess
take shots at people just doing it to get popular on Instagram.
Right. Yes. And so I guess with that being the other half of this show, I guess I'm very curious like how this develops in the long run. The OP already implies that
some more characters.
Zhuge Liang will be bringing other great warriors under his banner in the fight against the music labels.
What's a music label? Something like the Way Army.
So wait, you're saying that there might be more hot historical boys arriving?
So
no,
that's the thing.
I was going to say, is this now a gacha game in disguise?
No, I don't think anybody
singers,
from.
Right?
I think like actual modern day people.
Okay,
will be.
Gotcha.
So like he'll be expanding his roster under his management, basically.
Right.
Including the rap guy that we saw in the preview. I think he's going to be one of them.
Also, again, shout outs to the OP, which is very catchy.
Yes.
And then, as we discovered, the OP for your boy Kongming is a Japanese cover of a Hungarian pop song.
That went like viral, right, or something?
Yes.
That went viral in like 2008 or something.
Yes, the pop song in question is by, apologies for the pronunciation here, one Jolly Bully Kirali. And their hit single Chiki Chiki Bam Bam.
Yep.
God, it's so good though.
The ED also.
Sure.
The ED is an Owendan alumnus
Yes.
Which I was like, I knew I recognized this somewhere. It's ancient memories of playing a ROM of Owen Don 2 on my flashcard.
Yeah, so I think I appreciate that. It shows how they're taking the music angle seriously in a way, because like they're not just having the voice actresses do some idle music and calling it a day, right? Which anybody can do.
I guess for the singing voice, they hired some like Nico Video famous anime cover artist, somebody
who can actually sing.
And it's cool. And again, it's like, because it's PA Works, like it's a fairly well made show. Like I think I've really enjoyed like how expressive Eiko is as a character. Right, there's a bit of a cartoonish bounce to her expressiveness at times.
Yeah, that almost feels a little weird because of how like. Again, I don't want to say I have to find a word better than serious, but like it doesn't feel like a silly anime face type of anime.
It's not a gag anime, but it does feel like it is occasionally not unwilling to.
So when she does kind of have a wacky anime face, it feels like a little off to me. But also, I can never say no to wacky anime faces. So.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think it's a lot of fun. Again, I was just kind of surprised how like. I was surprised that it wasn't a gag anime. Let's put it that way.
Right.
I thought that's where we were headed, and I would not describe it as that. Even though it is lighthearted and funny, it does have its sort of emotional core to it. And again, we talked about on the preview how it would be weird with PA Works doing this show, and now it kind of makes sense now that we've seen it.
Yes.
Get your young woman's career angle.
Yeah, it still kind of feels
with supernatural elements.
Yeah. Although this is a little bit more fun than God, I can't remember what was the last one. The Aquatope, which was good. Aquatope was good, but it was not the most exciting anime.
It was one of those.
Yeah, this is got is a little bit more fun so far. So, and I think I was curious, as people who get the Three Kingdoms references, how much anybody else would be getting out of that. Like we love it, but I don't know.
I'm very curious.
I'm not well versed in Romance of the Kingdoms, but like you can tell me Jugelong does anything, and I'll be like, all right.
Right. I mean, he has that reputation, right?
Yes.
But yeah.
Source of dizziness.
I will just say probably my favorite joke of the 2 episodes so far is just that when they meet Eiko's boss, who looks like a real classic Yakuza thug character.
Right.
And it turns out he's a huge Romance of the Three Kingdoms nerd.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself could be the joke, but the actual joke is that like every nerd possible, here's a man who is clearly a tremendous fan of that time period, probably played Dynasty Warriors, probably played even the turn-based strategy games. And what does this super fan do when he meets a man who claims to be the Zhuge Liang, the legendary Chinese tactician from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms? He needles him like an armchair general.
Right.
He's like, so how come you did that during that battle, huh? Like,
right.
What were you thinking? And it's like, okay, this is actually a true nerd. This is an actual nerd for this time period, because that is what somebody who truly lives and breathes that time period would actually ask someone from that era.
Yeah. my favorite joke was when he asked to borrow Eiko's smartphone to catch up on history, and they have the montage of him checking things, and then finally at the end, that's 4 hours later, he's like, "So Eiko, tell me, what is this blockchain?" She's like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
Oh God.
Zhuge Liang's getting into the blockchain.
So that
this young Wen Li fellow seems quite interesting.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a fun show. I hope they keep that up. But it's another fun one. All right, we got to keep moving here.
We
got
sure
a lot
do.
to go still. Let's talk about Deaimon.
The recipe for happiness.
The season's dad anime, I guess.
Dad anime. It's back.
The less interesting dad anime of the season, I would say.
The more conventional dad anime.
Yeah.
So this is...
Yeah, go ahead, Ira.
It's pretty standard setup, I would say. The main character basically went to Tokyo for a decade to try his hand at being part of a band, and it didn't work out, and he got a letter saying, his father's sick and come home, and so he goes back to Kyoto, where his family runs a traditional wagashi shop.
If only Juki Liang was there to manage his band's career.
So, fancy meal like mochi and such, and he's like, all right, well, my music career didn't work out. Well, I guess I'll take over the family business. I'm back, everybody. And
his dad is fine, by the way.
And
okay.
But while he was gone, somebody abandoned a child at the sweet shop, so they just sort of surrogate adopted her. And even though she's a precocious 10-year-old, she's like, I'm gonna inherit the shop. Why would I give the shop to you, a deadbeat who ran off to play music in the city?
Fair.
And so there's the tension here of, she doesn't like him, but he's kind of washed up a little, and it's like,
but he's a good
kid.
guy, really.
Yep.
Yeah. You can probably work out the rest.
And
yeah, so well, like the premise is straightforward. I just feel like some of the details felt a little off to me. Like,
it's really bizarre that it's just
I feel like
her parents abandoned her at this sweet shop, and nobody called.
And then the
child services.
The dude's mom is like, well, we're too old. You're going to have to be her father. Like, she explicitly says, you're going to be her father.
He's old enough to be her
so
father,
what town does this take? You said he had to move back home,
to
right?
Kyoto.
To, like, Kyoto's
it's a major fucking city!
Like, this is not like
if this was in the fucking boonies, I'd like get it.
Like if
right?
this was out in like fucking like Shikoku or something.
Yeah.
Like
right, but no, like
yeah, I mean,
Kyoto's a major city.
Yeah, I mean that aside, like
it feels contrived. Like
yeah.
even within the like boundaries of the genre, it feels contrived.
I'm trying to think what's America's equivalent to like Kyoto, and it's like
Chicago,
Boston.
It's like, oh no, a child was abandoned in Chicago.
Boston.
There's no social services here.
Yeah, any like one of the older cities.
Don't be
right?
ridiculous, G. There's no social services in any part of America.
Yeah, you're right. Oof.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I mean that aside too, just like the characters, like I don't know if it's just me being like a cranky old man, but I kind of hate the main guy.
Oh yeah.
Like he's a nice guy, but he's maybe like a little too goofy to be the dad in the dad anime.
Right.
It kind of feels as if it can't work out whether it wants to be kind of like fluffy and light or like serious and like an honest character piece, and I think like main dude kind of feels a bit anachronistic in his own story because it feels like he is from a way like goofier, more laid back anime than everything else that's happening.
Yep.
Yeah, like he feels a little too goofy. Then of course you get the classic precocious 10-year-old who acts, way older than she actually is, and just like I feel like if he was like, and maybe the point of the story will be him kind of be
she teaches him to be a little more dutiful. He teaches her how to loosen up a little.
Wait. She's 10, right? When was she abandoned? Like as a
year
baby?
ago.
Wait,
yeah,
what?
they say explicitly a year
it was like
ago.
pretty recent.
She would be like 9. You're not.
That's what I'm saying. Like all the details feel a little off to me, but like
you're a self-aware. I mean, to a certain degree, you're a self-aware human being. By the time you're 9, this person would have like distinct memories of their parents, and
and
she
I
does.
have a feeling we have not seen the last of her parents either.
Okay,
That's probably going to be drummed up for drama.
And what we do see of her dad abandoning her is not great because it's just like he is like 100% dirtbag, like you're just a drain, or like the shallowest, most cartoon cutout possible.
I feel like I always get really like annoyed with that because like I don't know, it's just like the reasons why a person may be forced to like give up custody of their child is often so like multifaceted.
It happens and it's complicated.
Complicated. It can often be like deeply unfortunate because of like unforeseen circumstances. So to always just default to the bad parents abandon their kids, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just.
I will say that I think, what's the girl's name? I forget, but I think she's pretty good, actually. I like her character. I think that they do a pretty good job of exploring, like, just kind of laying out the basics of why she is so determined. Like, they link the idea that, she's determined to inherit the shop because she's worried that because Dude has come back now, there's no place for her, and that ties into some, her feelings of being abandoned and thrown away by people. And I think that they touch on those in, not necessarily the lightest way, but I think it's well integrated into the story. I don't think the dynamic is bad at all, and I will say that I think I'm a little bit warmer on this than Iroh and Artemis were in the first look. It just feels like it needs some sort of X factor to really make it compelling viewing.
I feel like the thing about the show is I see the first episode and I feel like I can see the entire story laid out in front of me, and it's like I don't know what this could do to make me interested.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that it's bad. Like, it's just totally fine.
There's not really, like, any, I guess,
I don't really have a hook.
Special thing it's doing to really pull you in, other than... And in my opinion, I don't even feel like it's fully executing on the premise it does have. But
and, this is not the show's fault, but anything that is so themed around a very specific aspect of Japanese culture can be a little bit difficult for me personally, at least, to get into, because I am not familiar with that culture. So, that's not the show's fault, but it is perhaps a reason why I find it a little bit unapproachable in that regard.
You're talking about them getting into the making the...
the very specific wagashi stuff.
And mochi, manju.
Right. They do spend some time on that as well, Yeah, I mean, if that's going to be like their unique hook thing, that's also not super compelling to me personally. But
Sweetness and Lightning was good.
That's
all I'd say on that.
I mean, I'm saying a lot of bad things. This is not like awful by any means, and if like you really want a dad anime, it's probably fine.
I thought it was quite charming.
Yeah, I feel like we've had better examples.
Yeah.
Was all. Yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move along. Last minute ad from me here. Shikimori is not just a cutie. This is the Dogakobo romantic comedy that got delayed a week for mysterious reasons and is now going to be further delayed because
of coronavirus.
And now they've officially announced that it's going to be further delayed. They did get the first episode out, but apparently everyone at Dogakobo has COVID, so get well soon for everybody there. But the COVID's still a thing, folks. It ain't over.
Yeah,
wear your fucking mask.
Just because they lifted the mandate doesn't mean it's
just because
not here anymore.
Just because you're not legally forced to wear a mask doesn't mean that you shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate.
Anyway, they did get the first episode out, even though it was delayed a week, which is so I managed to fit this in just before the podcast.
Yeah.
I saw a comment or something describing this as the Chad girlfriend anime.
Yeah.
All right.
Kind of is.
So this is the very rare romantic comedy where the couple is just dating right off the bat.
Okay. Yeah.
And the general idea is that the main guy is very unlucky. He's kind of a klutz.
Your soft femboy who just gets trips all over the place, right?
Yeah, and his girlfriend is very good at everything and basically looks after him. And it was pretty nice. Like, it was fine. I think, they always say that having the reason why you always get the lead up to the relationship is that's easier to make exciting, right?
Right.
Which is
dramatic.
I'm in the camp.
There's more drama in the chase.
Right. And I'm in the camp that you can still make a good story about a couple together, but I don't.
Yeah.
This was still pretty. Even in the first episode, it was like putting me to sleep a little bit.
Right.
They have an extended scene with them talking about like how windy it is while they're walking down the street. Like, it's a little. Yeah, it's a little yeah.
Just
it's not the most exciting thing,
right.
but it is nice. Again, this is another comedy with nice people being nice to each other generally. There's if I had one criticism, I think the best way I can explain this is there's one scene that kind of illustrates the attitude that's kind of here, where like the girlfriend's kind of good at everything, and the idea is that like that somehow makes her less attractive, and it's so novel that this guy is into her because yeah, sure, she's hot, but like she's a girl that does stuff. And I think the author is trying to push back against that, but it's still kind of there. So like the example that I picked
the bowling
is
thing.
Yeah, did you actually watch the anime, the episode?
I have skimmed some of the manga, and
I know you said you
tabbed through
some of the manga.
The first episode really quickly right before the podcast.
Okay, yeah. But you know about the bowling thing because that's the example I would give. Yeah. So they go as a group of friends, they go bowling, right? And the girl and her friends like pull her aside, and they're like, oh, you should intentionally bowl bad, because when girls do stuff bad, that's makes them super cute, right?
Oh, it's this kind of thing. All right.
And she's like, oh, what do I do? I want to look cute and all, until she finally gets up there, and her supportive boyfriend cheers her on to do her best, and so she proceeds to bowl like a perfect game, right?
Sure.
And so that's nice, that's fine. But then like the reaction from everybody else is like, of course her boyfriend's like, oh wow, my girlfriend's so cute, I love her so much. And then everybody else is like, who is this monster woman that just bowled a perfect game? And like her friend actually says, well, I guess she chose to be cool instead of cute. And I'm like, no,
sounds good to me.
No.
Oh, okay. This
be
is
cool
this is
instead,
the,
please.
This is the okay.
Well,
this
first of all, you can be both.
Yes.
This is the
can be
spectrum
both.
this anime is operating.
Yes.
Because I was trying to put together like, because you were something like, oh, Chad girlfriend or something. I was like, what is it like? She's like super masculine secretly or something, but no, it's just that she doesn't fall completely neatly into the like
and it is supposed
Japanese,
to be like a
feminine archetypes, I guess.
It feels like this.
Right? A cool
it feels like this
cute.
might be a case of. Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
Aaron.
go ahead.
I was just going to say this feels like it might be a case of by like trying to push back against the trope, you are merely reinforcing
it. Is just reinforcing it.
Yeah,
because like when you said Chad
or
girlfriend, I was like in my head like, oh, does she like? Is she like arm wrestling and like hunting bears or in the woods or something? No,
it's like
no. I mean,
I
they
would
are
watch
still
that.
trying to
from random bad
Sure.
luck.
Yeah,
because
because she's always protecting him from his bad luck. So like she's like pushing him out of the way of moving trucks and stuff like that. Like so, it is still.
Wait,
they
you're
are
saying
still,
she
I think,
stops him from going to another world?
Yeah, right.
So she's just like dependable and competent.
Right. The
Yes,
joke is
and
the
that
joke
scene
is
is, like,
she'll be
being-
dependable and competent, and like it'll end with her, like she saved him, but in the process she pinned him against the wall, right? And so it'll do the whole like, oh, wow, my girlfriend is so assertive.
I think it's
Right.
the thing that bothers me is the fact that like he's into it, but like everybody else is like looking at her funny for like, oh, why is she protecting him? It should be the other way around because he's the man, And I feel like maybe they should push back on that a little harder, and maybe they will. This is only the first episode, but
I mean, be honest. Like, is this a premise that can carry you across like 12 episodes?
yeah, it was just not like interesting enough for me to maybe keep up with it. I don't know if I'm really gonna. I might give it like one more episode.
I just feel like this season being the way it is, packed with a certain type of show it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
You just have so many better options this season.
Yeah. So, anyway, at the very least, I hope everyone at Dogakobo recovers and they get back on track.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know about this one.
All right.
All right.
At least Dogakobo is doing a show that isn't about pedophiles.
Yes. Well, now they
speaking of.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, well. Yep. All right. There's your layup.
There's your layup. Zig.
Yeah.
What is this next one?
This is In the Heart of Kunoichi Tsubaki, which is a show. So the reason I checked this out is because the manga is by the same guy as Takagi-san, which I like, and I
thought I
think is
recognized
very good.
those giant foreheads.
Yes, it is very noticeable through the use of the gigantic forehead constantly. And, I thought this might be a fun, weird little, like, goofy ninja comedy. It is absolutely not that. It is instead maximum creepy. So the premise here is that the titular Tsubaki is part of a ninja clan who lives in the unspecified rural Japan, and they are completely barred with all contact with men. And also 90% of them appear to be elementary school age. And despite this ban, our hero has an inherent fascination with men and is up to all sorts of hijinks to try and meet one. And it's just about as weird and off-putting as you can imagine there.
Cool.
It's really disappointing, actually, because...
How many bath scenes did they have?
There's actually not one in this. This is the thing. It's not creepy in the sense that it is in... It's not creepy in the way that anime is normally creepy about extremely underage characters, in the sense that it is constantly trying to undress them and stuff. It's way creepier.
They're trying to pretend it's not creepy, which is worse.
Yes, and it's way creepier in the kind of really dark, unspoken way of these girls are actually gagging for it, and it's you can't suppress these girls' interest in men, and I'm like, ugh, ugh, ugh. It's just bad vibes, man.
Is this the fucking Dark Mirror to what was that Mario Kart show? A while back.
Oh, Maidens in Your Savage
that.
Season.
Oh,
That was great.
Man.
Right, that show is about female sexuality in a nuanced and
Right.
And occasionally
I don't know if it's
extremely
nuanced,
blunt.
but it certainly is
more nuanced than.
Maybe
Oh,
just
yeah.
more grounded.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yes, a grounded,
sure.
honest
Yes.
position.
I mean,
yes.
this is just, it's very creepy, and also one of the characters is a psycho lesbian for the main character, because apparently we will never ever escape that trope.
Of course.
But it's just very, and it retroactively makes me like Takagi-san less, because it makes me realize, oh, this dude's kind of a creep, and that means the occasional bits where Takagi-san sometimes borders on being creepy, he was probably doing that deliberately. So
Right, now you realize in hindsight that was not by accident.
Yeah.
That was probably always the intention.
Yeah, so it's like I said, it is simultaneously not really explicit while at the same time being very creepy. So I would strongly recommend against watching this one.
Like I said, sometimes that's worse than
no, it is,
being openly.
and yeah, I think that it is exploitive in a uncomfortable way, and that is way worse than just it being stuff. Also, again, these girls look really young, and it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I've seen the art, and yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I can connect the dots on that one.
Yeah, firm miss. Let's pass that one by, shall we?
Yeah. All right. Well, I have no transition into the next one here with that. Let's just talk about Love After World Domination.
Yeah. Wow.
This is the one where it's tokusatsu themed. What if
Sentai?
What if the Red Ranger fell in love?
Oh, this is the one about
uh,
fucking Rita Repulsa.
Yeah, this is the Sentai parody where the obligatory sexy female villain and the Red Ranger are secretly dating while pretending to fight in front of their allies.
And let's be clear,
that's
a great idea. Yeah. It's a really good idea. I think that there is huge potential for comedic value from that. This show is not the kind of thing that is equipped to take advantage of that.
It's sort of the same deal with Shikimori, where at least in the first episode, it's the one joke, and we are going to repeat that one joke over and over, right? And it's there's no. Okay, so like obviously we have the base premise here of star-crossed lovers in this wacky situation with Red Ranger is trying to date the villain, but like that doesn't lead to any, at least as of yet, has not led to any like specificity in its jokes. It's just been, here's the premise, isn't that funny? And I go, yeah. So you doing anything with that?
There's no like. And again, I don't know how much of this is just, the way the different Japanese approach to comedy, but it feels like this is the kind of thing where you need like a series of wacky hijinks and a bunch of like punchlines to play off of, and there's not really that. There's just kind of like a few occasionally amusing skits which sort of meander and go nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, and what it sounds like to me is like, because I mean, again, I'm not even like very much a toku aware person, but like it seems like you're dealing with such a specific like medium with such specific tropes and like quirks to it. It kind of seems to me like a show like this would have been really suited by having been written or directed by somebody who is already an Akira Amamiya, just already a giant toku nerd, right? Who's familiar with the tropes and then knows specifically how to play on them in very specific ways.
It manages all like the very easy references,
And that's what I mean, right? That's anyone can do that, honestly.
But I don't necessarily think that this show would be better if it was just a series of tokusatsu in jokes, if that makes sense. I think that there is just good potential in the premise of, these people are meant to be mortal enemies, but they're secretly in love behind everybody's backs, but they have to keep up appearances. I don't think that there's anything specific to tokusatsu about that. It's just, it allows you to put crazy trappings on it, like she's like dressed like a dominatrix with a skull mask and an evil whip, and all the bad guy, like one of her subordinates is a bear with cannons strapped to him and stuff like that.
I guess what I mean though is that like if this were being handled by someone who was like more familiar with the tropes though, would they be able to pull like more unique material from their premise, right?
Perhaps, but again, I don't think that that's exactly what it needs. It just needs to be sharper. The jokes, there need to be more jokes, they need to hit harder, the presentation needs to be snappier. As it is, as I said, it just sort of meanders, and one of the main quote unquote jokes is that when Red Ranger tries to confess his love, he knows everything about her because he's been stalking her social media profiles, and there's theoretically several different jokes there, and the show kind of just goes for none of them. It's just kind of like, hey, isn't it funny that he knows everything about her? That's kind of generically amusing, right?
Like lean into the weird fact that why does she have a social media?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, why is she posting on social?
But I'm supposed to be evil. Like, I kill puppies. And he's like, no, actually, I know that you love puppies because you posted about it on Twitter. And
lean into the idea that she's got social media, lean into the idea that he's being kind of a creepy stalker, lean into make a joke about how they could, if you paid attention to her social media, they could figure out the evil plan in 5 seconds or something like that, but make a joke, but there just isn't really a joke.
A lot of the episode is just them staring at each other and should we hold hands? I don't know.
I think the one legitimate joke that I found pretty amusing was where the Blue Ranger pops his head over the ridge to see them, and they instantly segue into fighting.
And but generally, the idea of them going on a date while the rest of the crew is fighting is also pretty funny to me.
Right, but again, that's not a specific joke. It's just kind of a thing which is happening.
Yeah,
and it just like I said, great idea, needs a way punchier presentation. It's
what
just
I was saying in the beginning with Kaguya and Aharen-san, and they don't have an exciting premise, but it's the execution, right?
And if this had the presentation of something like a Kaguya-sama, where the team absolutely hits every joke on the head and then lets you know that they have hit it on the head.
Yes,
I think it would be a much more enjoyable show. As it is, it's just sort of bland, and that's a real. There's just nothing to say, and that you can't really get away from that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. well, let's wrap things up with the most anticipated.
Okay, let's actually talk about the good thing instead of like.
There's been some good things.
We're a bit on a stretch of not good things.
I'm just saying we have spent a lot of time in the last 30 minutes talking about shows that don't deserve the airtime we've given them.
So let's talk about the most anticipated premiere this season with Spy Family.
Yes.
So can I start here, because I think I'm the only person here who went in with absolutely no knowledge of what this was at all. Yeah. Like, beyond the fact that I knew that it was something which people really liked, and it was, I thought it was meant to be a comedy, although the first 5 minutes gave me severe doubts about that. I think the thing I appreciated about this is that it is a really, really dry comedy, if that makes sense. Like, you don't see many animes that are legitimately super deadpan, and I think that this really is a very wry, straight-faced comedy, and I really enjoyed that. I think it took me a little while, like I said, to realise for sure that it was a comedy, because
through, is this supposed to be comedy?
Yeah, because tons of funny stuff was happening, but it's presented without, because comedy anime normally has a lot of bombast around the jokes, like the big flashing signs saying this is a joke or something like that, and this is just so very charmingly understated that I think it took me a while to realise, and that's a good thing. I really enjoyed how low key funny it is.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
I guess to refresh everyone's memory, the general premise was spy dude has to adopt a little girl to
he needs
get his mark.
He needs a family that will let him spy. One might say a spy family.
And this is in a vaguely fictitious Cold War era East versus West setting, right?
I got more like a 20s, 30s vibe from it. You have the very old-fashioned receiver phones and stuff like that.
Berlin.
I'll just say they'll make it clear it's meant to be a Cold War analogy.
Okay, sure. Okay.
As time goes on.
Yeah.
World War II.
Yes,
and
but
I would say, as someone who did not read the manga but at least knew what the premise was, based on everything you guys have told me when we did our preview episode and just talk, I've been hearing you guys talk about this manga long before the anime was announced. So
yes,
and you've all spoken very highly of it and said this is going to be a show Jell would love. So I had
expectations.
I had high expectations, yes, coming into it, and I think they met the expectations.
Right.
So
So
in a way, I don't want to say I was disappointed, but it was exactly what I thought it was, which is good.
And I think that's totally fine, because this is the part where I, as the one who have read this manga since the first week it aired, it was published. Going back to this is an interesting reminder of how Spy Family started out, is maybe what I'll say. I'm a big fan of the manga. I have very much enjoyed, I would say it is maybe one of the most consistent things that is currently being published in Jump Plus or Weekly Shonen Jump, or however you delineate that. But it's really interesting going back, because it is that reminder that in a lot of ways the first few chapters of Spy Family kind of feel like a pilot, if that makes sense.
Right.
It kind of feels like a self-contained breakdown of, all right, here's your premise, and here are the characters, and this is what's going on, right? And so kind of going back, it's really interesting, because these dynamics will evolve and change over time, right? You can kind of already begin to see okay, this is what the Anya-Lloyd dynamic is going to eventually grow into, and it's really fascinating to kind of come back and kind of see where it all begins, so to speak, right? Because I think you guys are right that the humor is definitely a little bit more sedate in this opening episode, right? Lloyd is very much just introduced as your comically serious, super competent super spy, right? And Anya is kind of initially introduced as your sort of scatterbrained
child,
but well-meaning foil.
Forgive me, do they actually tell you his real name anywhere in that first episode?
No, he is Agent Twilight.
Yes.
Now being
pseudonym Lloyd
known
Forger.
as Lloyd.
Okay, so that's his pseudonym, right? I remembered
Yes.
Forger, of course, but I couldn't remember his first name.
But yeah, I will say I think I'm pretty impressed by like what they've done because like I mean obviously we haven't even introduced the other member of the titular family yet, and I think in a lot of ways that's totally fine because I think this episode does a really good job of sort of setting up your expectations for the tone of the series, the dynamics you're going to see, kind of what defines Anya and Lloyd as characters and why they complement each other well, right? Like they're both going to be, in a sense, getting something out of the other, right? Or at least initially, this relationship is going to be almost a little almost a bit of a transaction,
Right.
And then how the two kind of come to like genuinely form that relationship as time goes on.
Right.
Is the manga complete
No.
or is it ongoing?
No, it's still going.
Okay.
Yeah, I did find it interesting that they did not introduce. I don't know what her name is yet
The mom.
because they didn't
The
introduce
mom.
her. Yes. Which I think was the right choice because I feel like cramming any more into that episode would have been
Right.
too much. And I do agree. I think they had enough there to at least give you a good idea of how the show was going to go, right? Like you get what the mood is going to be. You kind of get what they're going for, even if one of the presumably very important pieces is still missing until episode 2. But yeah, I mean, I there's a lot of things I liked about it. Just like I like comedies with heart. I like this. The setting is different.
Right.
I think the fact that
Yeah,
they went
it's
with
a
this
fun,
sort of
it's a fun like for anime relatively unique setting.
that they went for this sort of early to mid 20th century type of setting is kind of makes for some really like cool, clean visuals and
Yeah, just stuff like the old cars and the classic apartments. It's a nice look and it really makes it stand out.
it's a nice change of pace from modern day Japan school stuff. And from what I've seen of the characters so far, I really like them. I mean, I like that Lloyd does not appear to be like totally dead, cold, emotionless spy guy,
Right.
even though he's trying to be.
He's trying to be, which is what's funny. I think, he wants to believe he is ice cold, but
right. And Anya's already great.
Oh yeah.
So
Yes, I mean Anya is probably going to be
Heart,
the like
yeah.
standout for many people. Like kind of going into this, she is, she's very much hitting that like, a Serpa quotient of like good faces and like right mix of like precocious and likable.
this is
And,
this is a season for funny anime faces.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a good season for faces. I will say I think one of the funniest jokes, whether it was intentional or not, is just where the narrator just announces out of nowhere that she's psychic. Like it's just, oh, by the way, she can read minds, and I was like, wait, what? Because like at that point I was fully taken. Oh, this is like a semi-realistic spy drama, and then it's just.
That's the big wrench in all
Yes.
this.
Zig,
Right?
it is a semi-realistic spy drama. MK Ultra was real.
Ouch. Yeah. No,
No, seriously, it's like I think it works, right? Because
No, it does. It's a great
you're already
joke.
introduced right out the gate with okay, you need to accept that this is this sort of Cold War fiction that has such a thing as super spies, right?
Right.
With their Lupin masks and everything, and to just like so like deadpan introduce Anya as like, oh yeah, she's a psychic. Like some people experimented on her as a kid, and like now she's got psychic powers. It's like yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
that feels right at home with this specific like
Time period, yeah.
time
You see,
period
like,
and like fiction
I-
style.
I still think it's kind of like a step beyond, and that to me is why it's good, because it's kind of like the show very briefly kind of like sidesteps like 1,000 miles to the left and then just immediately snaps back into business, and I thought that was pretty funny, to be honest. And obviously, it's a plot device that they're going to develop as they go along. I just thought the matter-of-fact way they present it is
Right.
very good.
Yeah, and they make good use of they don't like just totally abuse the mind reading thing. Like, they make good use of it, I think.
It's an extremely solid gimmick for that character.
Yeah.
And the fact that even in the manga, like, they continue to like find ways to keep it funny and interesting, and never like abuse is the right word. They never like abuse or over let it overstay its welcome as a plot device.
Right.
I think is a really strong aspect of the show.
Yeah.
You can cheat with that a lot, right?
Yes.
So like, I didn't feel cheated.
You know, there's already the joke in the first episode where like she's like, yeah, I'm just gonna fucking cheat on this test by reading the minds of other people.
Yeah.
Literally cheating.
And
yes.
It's like,
yeah.
Oh fuck, I can't. Nobody else knows the answers.
Right.
I also think like thematically it's good because like the whole point about a spy drama is that everybody is keeping something secret from everyone else, right? And so like even Lloyd, the master spy who thinks he's got it all figured out, in fact there is another game being played around him which he doesn't realise at all. I think that's quite a funny meta joke there.
Apparently there will be more games being played in the future here, right? But yeah, no, I really liked it, and definitely going to be at the top of the list here with some of these other shows that, you know, I'm glad in addition to some of the surprises, we also, what we thought was going to be our most sure thing ended up being a sure thing.
It's definitely the name show for this season, you know, the above the title one.
Sometimes it's just nice when a thing lives up to the hype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing that remains to be seen is how well the Studio Wit Cloverworks collaboration holds up over time. But
yeah, well,
but
I mean,
the content
we
itself,
talked about
rock solid.
We talked about the redemption of Studio Wit a little bit with Ranking of Kings from a technical standpoint, anyways. But Cloverworks is doing like 4 shows this season or something.
Yeah.
Too, so
Yeah.
you never know.
From a studio which, let's say, has had problems with its production pipeline in recent seasons, that's a little worrying.
Yeah, I'm more worried about Cloverworks than Wit at this point.
That's so crazy. Like, I don't think that's a thing you would have said like 3-4 years ago.
No, but definitely I would now in 2022.
Like, yeah, Studio Wit. they got it locked down. You
the
can
reliable partner.
Wit. The reliable Studio Wit.
they dropped Attack on Titan and turned things around.
Yeah.
Anyway, that'll do it then.
Yeah.
For our previews. There's many more shows that we didn't talk about that we watched that you can check out, but
a lot of isekai trash.
Yeah, there's at least one I would have liked to get on here if we hadn't gone over 2 hours, but we can just bring it up next time.
What? Just you can name drop it at least.
The modern remake of the legendary 1988 science fiction movie, Legends of Galactic Heroes.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, shit.
We'll
he
talk
beat
about
me to it.
We'll talk about that next time.
We get it. You're political.
Yeah, because I want to know where we are with that, so we'll talk about that.
Oh, we got thoughts about Mecklinger.
Look, man, we're like,
oh man,
this is
oh man,
the 4th or 5th movie, only 95 to go. Or...
That's the teaser. We
all
got
right,
thoughts about
teaser,
Mecklinger.
Yeah, I want to know about D&T Mecklinger for
I'm,
sure. All right.
I'm just, I'm just glad that there seems to be like a lot of stuff that's going to be exciting to watch and talk about. You know, after the relatively barren patch of last season, I think it's exciting to have new shows which are interesting again.
Yeah, my only thing is like, I said this back in our preview episode. I'm watching a lot of comedies, and those are hard to translate to audio format.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing I would say, like in conjunction with that, is I think that there's a lot of promising things in this season. But what's interesting is that tonally, they're almost all on the lighter side.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
I feel like usually when we talk about a good season, you know, we're talking about a Ranking of Kings or a Dynazenon or a Megalobox,
stuff a little more heft to it,
dramatic. Yeah.
But all the stuff so far that's been good has been like, the lighter tone
more
stuff.
lighthearted.
Yeah. It's interesting. It kind of makes me wonder if like they are at risk of crowding each other out as this season goes on.
Well, check back next time when Black Rock Shooter has become amazing. Yeah.
Turns out that pivot to comedy really worked out.
Yeah, right. Actual intentional comedy and not unintentional.
Well, we'll see.
All right. Well, that'll do it then. Let's do our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com, where we are currently still cranking out first looks, so you can get in written form our thoughts on these shows and many others that we've watched.
I'll probably write something about episode 2 of Black Rock Shooter at least, just to see where it goes. So that's me promising it on record, so I have to do it now.
Okay, you're now fully committed.
Yeah.
So, go check that out. You can follow us on Twitter at the GLORIO blog. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, all that good stuff. You can tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch everybody next time.